Begin with a slip knot and chain 30. After the 30 chains, get the stitch marker and mark the 30th chain. Then you're going to chain 5 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Then we're going to count from the point where the stitch marker is. So count from the next stitch after the stitch marker. So count 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 into the 6th one. So you're counting 6 chains, and into the 6th do a slip stitch. Again, chain 5. From the last slip stitch, you're going to count the next stitch, and you're going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Slip stitch into that 6th stitch. Then you're going to chain 5 again. Count 6 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Do a slip stitch. Again, chain 5. Then count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Do a slip stitch. Chain 5 again. And you're going to do the last slip stitch into the first stitch that you made, or the last stitch that is right there. And that is the first row. It's actually not the first row. It creates the gaps where the fingers are going to go. This is how you're going to put your fingers through when you're wearing the sleeves. We've just created the gaps for the 5 fingers like that. So now we're going to start working our row 1. Pull out the stitch marker. We're going to use it, so don't put it away. Now from this point, we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to turn to work from this side, or you can still work from this other side. After chaining 3, you're going to mark the 3rd chain right there. You can do this without marking, but we're just marking to make sure that we do not forget where we started. Then chain 2 more, and that is acting as our first double crochet, and a chain 2. Then we're going to count 1, 2 into the 3rd chain. We're going to yarn over. This is the first chain that has the first double crochet, so we'll not count this. We'll count this one, 1, 2, and then into the 3rd one we'll do a double crochet, chain 2, yarn over, skip 2 chains, 1, 2, into the 3rd one, do a double crochet, chain 2, skip 2 chains. After yarning over, you're going to skip 1, 2, and work into the 3rd one, do a double crochet, chain 2 again, yarn over. We are skipping this and this into the 3rd one, do a double crochet, again chain 2, yarn over, skip 1, 2. This is the 3rd one, so do a double crochet right there, chain 2 again, and keep going, yarn over, 1, 2, 3. So we're going to go working like that all the way around till we get back to two chains before the chain 3 that we started with. at this point we have 2 chains remaining right here before the chain 3, and therefore you're going to chain 2, and then into that stitch where the stitch marker is, you're going to put your hook through without yarning over and do a slip stitch. And that is our row 1 done. Pull out the stitch marker, and then we're going to chain 3, 1, 2 and 3, mark the third chain. You don't really have to mark if you can remember where you started. So then after chaining 3, you're going to chain 2 more, 1, 2, and turn your work. Then we're going to work over the double crochets from the previous row. So yarn over, go over the double crochet, this one right here, and do another double crochet on top of it. Chain 2, do a double crochet over this next double crochet. Chain 2, a double crochet on top of the previous double crochet. Chain 2, and we're going to keep going with a double crochet and a chain 2 in between the double crochets till we get back to where the last double crochet is before the stitch marker. I've already worked the last double crochet before the stitch marker, and I'll start working without it because I don't really need it. So now at this point I'll just count 3 chains, 1, 2 and 3 into the third one, do a slip stitch to complete row 2. So that's row 2 done. Then we're going to chain 5, so 3 plus 2, which is 5, 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Then turn your work to the other side, and then yarn over, do a double crochet over the previous double crochet, chain 2, do a double crochet next, chain 2, another double crochet on top of the previous double crochet, and we're going to repeat this to the end of row 3. I'm at the end in the last double crochet, so we're going to chain 2, and then in the very first chain 5 stitch we're going to count 1, 2 and 3. Then into the third chain do a slip stitch to complete row 3, then chain 5 and turn to begin row 4, and we're just going to repeat this row same way we've done row 2 and 3. So yarn over, do a double crochet on top of the previous double crochet, chain 2, double crochet next, chain 2, the next double crochet, and keep going. You're going to work rows, you're going to repeat this row until you have the length of your sleeve from your shoulders all the way to your palm. When you're measuring the sleeve length, you can stretch it a little bit because you're going to have your fingers inside the sleeve, so it's going to be a bit stretchy. So I'll keep going until I get the length of my sleeve, and then I'll come back and tell you how many rows I'll have done to get to my sleeve length. So just keep repeating this row and see you then. I've done a total of 36 rows, and I believe I've hit my sleeve length. I'm just going to measure it. If I measure this without stretching, it's getting me to 23 inches. But like I said, because you're wearing the sleeve on your palm or on your fingers, it's going to be stretching, and therefore when I stretch this out, it can stretch up to 29. So that means the 36 rows that I have can be worn by a person with a length of between 23 and 29. Now, next we're going to chain 1, get the pair of scissors and cut off the yarn, and the first sleeve is done. We're going to create another sleeve completely identical to this one, but at the end you're not going to cut off your yarn. So just go on, make another sleeve, and once you're done, do not cut off your yarn. Once you have the 2 sleeves ready, it's time to do the shoulder part, and you need to measure your shoulder to shoulder length. Mine is 13, and I'm going to work it while stretched. Remember, you are not supposed to cut off the yarn from the second sleeve, and you're going to chain 5, turn your work, and we're going to work the same way we've been working, but then we're going to work a total of 10 gaps. So that's the first one, chain 2, this is the second gap, chain 2, you're going to do a third gap, chain 2, then you have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So we work up to that point, we do not continue to the end. Next, we're going to chain 5 and turn. We are working the second row of the shoulder part. On top of the previous double crochets, you're going to place a double crochet and then a chain 2 in between the double crochets. At the end, you're going to chain 2, and then your nova, count 1, 2, and 3 into the third chain. We're going to place our last double crochet for the second row of the shoulder part. Then you're going to chain 5, then turn your work to the other side, and repeat. We're going to repeat this till we have the shoulder length when it's stretched. So let me do a few rows, then I'll show you how to measure. We do the last double crochet in the chain 3 stitch right there. That's our third row. Then chain 5 to begin row 4. Turn and keep going with the pattern. I mentioned that I was working a shoulder length of 13, but it should be 15 actually. So what I've done is I've done an extension with 15 rows, and that is getting me to 14 inches. So without stretching, we are measuring from this point of where we've started the extension. Without stretching, we are at 10 inches. When we stretch this out, it goes to around 14. Inches, and we need 15, but now I'll achieve the 15th inch while I'm attaching the sleeve, this one, to the other one. So what I'm going to do to connect the two is chain 3 and turn the work. Then I'm going to get the other sleeve from the point where I ended, and at that point you want to ensure your one of the sleeve is like this with this open end, and then you want to ensure that the other sleeve will be attached like this. So it should be like that. So what I do, I'll just get my hook. I've done the chain 3, get this point and do a slip stitch. At this point where I cut off the yarn, I'll do a slip stitch right there. Then onto this other side, you're going to do a slip stitch onto the chain stitches. You have 2 chains, so 1 and 2, then slip stitch onto the double crochet, slip stitch onto the double crochet, and you're going to do a double crochet from that point don't chain anything. So from this point, yarn over, go onto the other side of the sleeve, to the other sleeve that had an extension, and do a double crochet. So those 2 points are attached like that. After doing the double crochet, you're coming back to this other end of the sleeve, and you're going to do a slip stitch onto the first chain in between that first chain, then a slip stitch onto the second chain, then a slip stitch on top of the double crochet. And then from this point, you're going to yarn over, get the other end on the other side, and do a double crochet onto the next double crochet. I hope this is clear enough. Then next, we're going to do a slip stitch onto the chain, a slip stitch onto the next chain, and a slip stitch on top of the double crochet. Then yarn over, get the other end and do a double crochet. We have 3 double crochets joined. We come back to these other ends, do a slip stitch onto the first chain, a slip stitch onto the second chain, and a slip stitch on the double crochet. Then get the other end and do a double crochet into the next double crochet right here. We've joined 4 of them. We get back to this other sleeve, do 2 slip stitches, 1 into each chain, 1 and 2, then the third one goes on top of the double crochet, and then we yarn over, get the other end the next double crochet and double crochet on top of it. We get back here and do one slip stitch, the second onto the next chain, the third onto the double crochet, then connect the other side with a double crochet into the next double crochet. And we're going to keep going till we get to this end. At this point, I'm in the last stitch and I'm going to yarn over. Because this is a chain 5, we're going to count 1, 2, and into the third chain, we'll do a double crochet. And at that point, the two sleeves are well joined. If joining like this is a problem for you, you can just join with single crochets. So you just attach the two and do single crochets. Then at this point, I'll just slip stitch into the next stitch and chain 1, then cut off the yarn and pull through, then fasten, and the bolero is done. We are done. All you need to do is weave in the tails, and you can rock these over any top, any sleeveless top. So I'll just weave in these tails that are left hanging. So that's what you should have. Thank you if you stuck around to the end of the tutorial. If you've liked it, kindly give it a like, a comment, a share. And when you recreate this, kindly tag me on my other social media pages like Instagram and TikTok, and see you in the next one.